These are devotions for people at a social distance. This morning in my devotions, I was reading in the second letter of Paul to the Corinthians, chapter 10. And in the first verse of chapter 10, Paul says something that immediately strikes you as odd. I myself, Paul, appeal to you by the meekness and gentleness of Christ. I who am humble when face to face with you, but bold toward you when I am away. Well, that's an odd thing for him to say just out of the blue. Oh, here I am. I'm really humble and meek when I'm not with you, but then I get really strong when I'm with you, and then really strong and bold and maybe a little bit offensive when I'm away. What is this about? Well, it becomes pretty clear that what Paul is doing here is he is quoting his critics, because a little bit later in the chapter he says this: "For they say," the infamous "they say, "his letters are weighty and strong, but his bodily presence is weak and his speech contemptible. Let such people understand that what we say by letter when absent, we will also do when present." So Paul has obviously faced criticism that he's all nice and tender and gentle when you get him in person, but then he blasts you when he goes away. He blasts you in a letter. And looking at some of the letters that we have of Paul, that seems reasonable. He can really show his colors when he's writing a letter, and this is particularly true, of course, when he's writing to the letter to the church in Corinth, because he clearly had some issues with how they were living out their lives as a church together. So the reason why this strikes me today is this: I notice that we are in a situation now where we're living in the church, at a distance. We are not able to interact with one another face to face as we would obviously like to and as we're used to. And the question is, how do we live out the life of the church at a distance? And of course, it has its challenges, and of course, it has its problems. We're also learning how to do it, and some really good things have come out of it. We connect to people in new ways. We change our routines in sometimes very helpful ways. So there's some pluses, there's some minuses, but I just like to hold up Paul's final verse that I read here. Let such people understand that what we say by letter when absent, we will also do when present. There is a temptation, I think, to present yourself differently at a distance. I notice, for example, not necessarily in my own church, but when I'm in meetings or discussions with people who are outside and in other situations, I tend to withdraw and be a little bit different. So trying to be consistent, trying to be who we are at such times, I think is really helpful and really meaningful. And for this, I would just encourage you to think, how do you present yourself? And can you present yourself as much as possible, even over these distances, as a person who genuinely follows Christ and lives with Christ? Lord our God, let us be who you call us to be. Whether we're face to face or at a distance, let us live with love and gentleness and present boldly and truthfully the word of life and hope. Amen.